Hey, and welcome to Game Talk. It's your host, Connor, here. This week we've got something a little different for you. It is currently Monday, May 8th, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom comes out this Friday. So I thought it might be fun to throw together a clips episode of all the times that we have talked about Tears of the Kingdom so far. So I'm going to play that for you. Hope you all enjoy.
Game that they announced or showed that is coming tentatively in 2022, and by God, I hope it comes in 2022.
Yeah, we got a new trailer. I want to do my pitch. We got a new trailer for the sequel to Breath of the Wild,
which is, like, hands down the best thing I've seen at E3 this year. Like, instantly.
And it's a really short trailer.
It was
but
30 seconds long, but each of those seconds was precious to me. Like, that trailer was a roller coaster, despite how short it was. But I think it bears mentioning, and Connor, you can give your Galaxy Brain level pitch here soon, but I was going to say, Eiji Aonuma came out on, on screen, and he was like, today it's Zelda's anniversary. I was like, okay, this is where we get the Zelda collection announcement, consisting of Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, and Twilight Princess. But no, he announces a Zelda-themed Game & Watch with Zelda 1, 2, and, like, some weird puzzle game on it. I was like, what?
No, it also has Link's Awakening on it.
Oh, it has Link's Awakening. Okay, so that's
but not the director's cut of Link's Awakening. It's the black and white Game Boy version, which is a really weird choice.
So I'm almost convinced that this Zelda collection was... And it existed at some point, and then Nintendo was just like, nah, let's just split it up into individual remastered games and sell them for $60 each. I'm almost 100% sure that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm kind of inclined to think that later this year, like after Skyward Sword comes out, they're going to announce a Twilight Princess HD port to the Switch. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But I think they're not going to want to do that until closer. They don't want to cannibalize the sales on Skyward Sword. I think it'll release early next year.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So they did talk about the Skyward Sword remaster a bit, and of course we know that's coming pretty soon. But like, what's interesting is after seeing the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer, I kind of think there's an additional reason for them picking Skyward Sword to be remastered now, and it seems like the games might be connected in some way.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty clear that they are. You definitely they added floating islands, and there's lore. There's like those floating islands could have already been there in Breath of the Wild 1, and you wouldn't have seen them. And there are lore reasons for that explained in Skyward Sword, and I think that's going to matter. But
I will just say, like, really quick, Connor, the way they opened that trailer, where it was all dark and it showed flashes of Ganon and flashes of Zelda, and then just total black. And then suddenly this bright light erupts, and you see Link, like, falling from the sky.
It
was
makes your
just
heart drop.
Beautifully done. It was so good. But go ahead.
And Link has on this, like, Kid Icarus looking outfit, like,
and his hair's all long, and it's just like, what is happening? Like,
so, and I've seen a couple other theories that, like, it's involving time travel and stuff. And
see, I think that is the case, because there's two different Links that we see in this trailer. We see the Link from the first game, and then we see this longer-haired Link, and it's just like, what is happening?
Yeah. So I'm wondering if those were just recorded at different times in development, though. That's also a possibility.
It could be, but
because when we see short hair Link, he's standing in places that are familiar to us.
I want to believe, though, that everything in this trailer was deliberately placed.
Yeah,
like,
me too.
I kind of feel like it was.
If everything in this trailer is extremely deliberate and trying to send a message, then I think I'm picking that message up. And I think that not only are we going to be visiting the skies of Skyloft again, but I think we're also going to revisit Twilight in this game, because I don't know, they're talking about how dark of a game it's going to be. The last dark game that they did was Twilight Princess. And they linger on the castle at Twilight, like the time of day Twilight, for a really long time.
Unusually long time. I thought we were going to see the title come up.
Like, I've heard that a few times, and they're just lingering on it at Twilight, and there's just like a somber atmosphere to it. And I don't think they're just bringing back Twilight and because Twilight Princess is a somewhat divisive game. I think they're because they already did this in Breath of the Wild 1. There are a lot of locations from previous Zelda games. And so my theory is that where Breath of the Wild 1 was you going through and collecting this Link's memories, I think in this game there's going to be a part of it. I don't think it'll be the core part because I think they're going to do dungeons again. That was like the main complaint. I think dungeons are going to make a comeback. And there's actually a monster in the trailer that looks a lot like one of the entrances to a dungeon in the first Legend of Zelda. But my theory is that you're going to be going around Hyrule and visiting locations from previous Zelda games, like Lurelin, which is an exact copy of Outside Island. There's the Eventide Island, which is the island from Link's Awakening. You can get to Skyloft now. I think you're going to visit the Twilight and maybe even see Binda because I think she's immortal or whatever. And you're going to be collecting memories of previous Links and kind of putting them all together to become strong enough to kill Ganondorf once and for all.
This theory is ridiculously bold, and like
it is, and that's the only reason I would bother to record it because it's probably wrong. But if I'm right,
though, that would be. I would be speechless if you were right. Yeah. But like Nintendo like is very careful about like they try to separate Zelda out as much as possible, right? Like they did say there was like a timeline or whatever, and like I'm sure there is, but like I think for all intents and purposes they want Zelda games to be separated, right? Unless they are explicitly connected, like Ocarina of Time.
It would be a definite change in the way that they do Zelda, because like the way I always like to think of Zeldas, unless they're direct sequels, is that it's the same story being told different ways. Essentially, it's one. There was one Link and one Ganondorf, and they fought, and it's just different ways of telling that story.
I mean, it's the Legend of Zelda, and legends can be interpreted and change over time and all that sort of thing.
And I think that's a way better interpretation of the whole thing than the stupid triple timeline break.
I like the time. Well, the timeline is now back to. Hold on, I'm going deep here. The timeline with Breath of the Wild is actually a convolution of all
it's timelines. It is because it references. It has the Rito. It has references to stuff from Wind Waker as well as Twilight Princess.
Like Ganon charged like a spirit bomb of all his other Ganons to create the ultimate Ganon.
Well, that's like another reason I think I'm right, is that it's like a convergence of all the different timelines, and you have to like converge all the different links into
that
one.
Would be wild, man. I'm telling you what, that would be.
It may be a terrible, I need to call Matt Pat, but it's a bad fan theory. But
there is a reason why they're not giving us the subtitle.
Yeah,
well, that's an interesting
I saw a
thing
theory that kind of makes sense to me, which is that the title has Demise in it, and they want people to play Skyward Sword before. Because the way they're depicting Ganondorf does kind of look like Demise.
I mean, the way they're depicting Ganondorf is so weird. It's like he is dead, and it's his ghost. It's so cool. Gosh,
it's very good. It's very upsetting. I like it a lot.
Yeah, and no, like they came out and said like we're not revealing the title yet because it has implications for what the game's going to be about, and it's like, oh my god, I just want to know.
So the theory I saw on Reddit was that it's Demise is in the title, and they want people to meet Demise in Skyward Sword before meeting him in Breath of the Wild 2, which would also explain why.
Like I don't know why
Skyloft is back. Why? Yeah.
Going in, like Zelda games, their titles are. I think titles are some of the coolest part of the Zelda games. Like I love the Zelda titles.
A lot of them feel really lazy. Like Ocarina of Time is just an item in the game.
But that's what I like about it. Like it's not like the Zelda titles are always just items, right? Except for Breath of the Wild.
Princess.
Well, yeah. Well, okay, they're referencing things in the game.
Yeah, okay.
They're referencing things in the game.
That's how you make a title, though.
But like Breath of the Wild was just sort of more abstract, is where I'm going with this.
I like
Breath
of the Wild as a title.
So like I thought this title would also be sort of abstract, like maybe like, something of the skies or something like that, right? But like I don't think we're gonna get that. We're going to get a more concrete Zelda title this time again.
Yeah, people are joking a lot about it just being called A Link to the Past.
I mean, that's kind of what it seems like it is, like in a literal sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh my god, that just like, and I said afterwards, like that was fantastic, but like, I needed more. Like, I feel like I was
I'm
a
dying. Yeah.
starving man, and
Yeah.
Aonuma threw me a morsel of food, and I consumed it, and it made me happy. But in the end, it just made me hungrier.
Yeah,
Like,
they've really reopened the wound from 2 years ago.
yeah,
Like
like
I have
I just
watched
need to
this
see
entire
more.
direct more than one time. I've watched it like 4 or 5 times
The
probably.
entire direct, that's wild. I've definitely watched the Breath of the Wild trailer like multiple times, but
I've watched the Metroid Dread trailer more than Breath of the Wild. I think I might be probably just because it's healthier for me because the game's actually coming soon. I have an actual date.
yeah,
I am more excited for Metroid Dread right now than Breath of the Wild
that
2.
makes sense. And you know, like they said at the end, we're targeting 2022, which
Yep. Scary.
wow, yeah,
Which,
like
if it's as ambitious as I think it is, there's a good chance they miss it.
yeah, I mean, like it's funny. Initially, we're like, okay, this game's gonna have a quick turnaround cycle because it's reusing all the assets from Breath of the Wild. And I think at some point in development that was true, but I do think this game sort of exploded in scope and is now something else entirely. Like I'm sure
I think
that
maybe they realized
Breath
that
of the
what
Wild
people
is
liked so
there,
much
but
about Breath of the
yeah,
Wild was like finding these familiar places and seeing how they're different,
yeah,
and setting it in the same Hyrule again was just a non-option.
yeah. No, I think you can go to that Hyrule, right? But like I do think the game's way. I think there's so much about this game that we don't know that'll completely change the way we see this game. Honestly, like they're
Yeah.
still holding so much back, and that's really exciting.
Yeah. It also,
Yeah.
like, they talked about Breath of the Wild having a bigger focus on story, and that ended up not
No.
really
Yeah.
being true. I think this one does. Like, there's a lot going on in these trailers. There's already more story to this game than there was to Breath of the Wild, essentially.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it's funny because like Breath of the Wild promised this amazing story, and then they put out that insane trailer, but that trailer ended up being like the entire story, pretty
yeah.
much. Yeah, but you know, like even if it doesn't have it like a story focus, it's still going to be absolute brilliance. Like
Oh, yeah.
it's just going to be fantastic, and I'm so excited
No,
for
I mean,
it.
just having new Sheikah Slate powers, which they clearly are doing.
Oh yeah, we
Aiming
saw
upon
a
the Sheikah
couple of
Slate.
them, right? Like with the
Yeah, rolling that ball up the
rock,
hill. Yeah.
and then like the weirdest one to me was like when Link got like sucked up the mountain and like went through the rock and like pulled himself out
Yeah,
like
that
he was
so
climbing
weird,
out of
yeah.
a pool of water.
That
Like,
seems
what?
really situational. That seems like a really, like, I don't think that's a Sheikah Slate ability. That seems more like a how he gets up to the sky ability, because that would
Yeah.
be so weirdly situational, I feel like,
Yeah,
against like
it's
the
just
super broad applicability of all the others.
yeah, it's just I just love the creativity on display in these games. It's like not something the fans could ever come up with, but like it's just
No.
incredible. You know, they're so
No,
creative.
it's true. I mean, there's a reason there's not any one famous Zelda fan game. Like, it's just too much.
Yeah, they've got a special sauce over there for sure. But I think in the broad strokes, at least, that pretty much covers E3 2021 now. And 2 episodes ago, we had an Xbox-centric podcast. Last episode, we had a PlayStation-centric one. And for this one, we just had a Nintendo Direct and some pretty spicy Nintendo-related news. So it seems appropriate to talk about Nintendo here. So I guess we can start off with the Nintendo Direct. They had a Direct recently showcasing games that were coming out in the first half of 2022. And some decent surprises in there, I think. Most notable absence, of course, was Breath of the Wild 2, but like again,
Followed by Silk Song.
Silk Song, if that is ever even happening at this point. But I wasn't too surprised. I'm still of the opinion that Breath of the Wild 2 is a 2023 game. Unfortunately, I really want to be wrong, but
I really doubt it. I think it'll be holiday 2022 at the latest.
We'll see.
Because they say it was going to come in 2022 last year.
They did. They said aiming for 2022.
Oh, well, yeah. They also aimed for 2015 or 2014 for Breath of the Wild, didn't they?
2014, really?
Yeah, I think so. The original release date was way sooner than.
But you've got to think,
three
right?
years
Like,
sounds right. Yeah.
I mean, they've got like really solid framework now, right? Like they don't have to build it from scratch, so
right, but yeah,
you can be optimistic, I think.
Yeah, I was thinking about it recently, and I like what I would want from Breath of the Wild 2. And more Breath of the Wild would not be good enough, I don't think. Not after this long of a wait. Like, I've kind of had time to digest it. and they're still gonna have to do some creative stuff with it because like
see, like with Nintendo, I feel like you don't have to like. I don't think Nintendo has ever just really cashed in on like a big sequel like that. You know,
not with a sequel, but the Breath of the Wild DLC is abysmal. I was watching somebody play it on Twitch the other day, and that it's just bad. It's really not redeemable.
it is bad, but I'd also challenge you to find like, you know, like I feel like most DLC is bad, to be honest. Like, I don't know. Like certain Nintendo properties, I get very excited for sure. Finally, right? We got the title reveal for Breath of the Wild 2, so we can stop calling it Breath of the Wild 2.
Yeah, it's Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom. Can we talk about the fact that allegedly they couldn't show it in Great Britain?
Yeah.
Well, that's why they delayed it too, because it was like going to air the same week the Queen died.
The Queen died, and it's like,
which is like,
Tears of the Kingdom.
and I was like, okay, like when I first heard they delaying it, I was like, why would they possibly do this? And now, after hearing the title, I was like, okay, I understand why.
Like, yeah, that would have been some bad press. Yeah.
What a weird
I'm
title.
hype. Like, I don't know. They showed nothing, but you know, we got another trailer.
Yeah, what a title, The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. It's a very kind of edgy title, I feel like, you know, like I don't know, like the title usually it does a good job of kind of like portraying the tone of the game, right? Like Majora's Mask is probably the darkest Zelda game to date, other than Twilight Princess.
This game has a lot analogous with Majora's Mask, like same world, same engine.
Yeah, and like Tears of the Kingdom, like it definitely paints like a more melancholic picture, right? So I wonder if we're going to get.
Breath of the Wild was already dark.
It was, right, but like I don't know, like Breath of the Wild is a very abstract title, right? Tears of the Kingdom is pretty specific, so I feel like maybe this game is going to have more story focus. It might even have, you know, like I mean, like that much was a little evident even from the trailers, right? Like with Link and Zelda and stuff. So that's pretty exciting. I hope, you know, like they still haven't shown it, but I do hope that dungeons make their return. Traditional Zelda dungeons.
I think it's almost. I mean, you saw like weren't there like 7 of something in the trailer on the painting? Like that screams dungeon to me.
Yeah, I mean, traditional Zelda dungeons paired with like the Breath of the Wild world is just like perfect Zelda in my mind, right? So
I'm still sad that they're reusing the world a little bit because the best parts of Breath of the Wild to me were just like finding stuff.
They are reusing the world, but like there's a whole like sky world above the world now that Link can apparently jump up and down from. Yeah. So they're still being pretty cagey about it. And actually, quite honestly, they barely showed anything in this trailer.
Oh, it was a teaser trailer, if anything.
The big news was the title reveal, really. But like, yeah, also, like you.
Can we talk about the fact that they said they didn't want to reveal the title previously because it was a spoiler?
I guess.
Like
I don't know.
It's not. Like it's just
something happened that made the kingdom sad.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. Like it is a very, I mean, it's definitely a more specific title than Breath of the Wild, but like you can't glean any story details from Tears of the Kingdom, really.
Nothing. Yeah. I mean, but I don't know. I'm excited to play it, but
yeah, I'm excited to play it. Still, like we really don't know much about this game, right? Like what's the deal with that like long-haired Link we saw in the first trailer? He didn't make an appearance in this new trailer, I don't think. Like is that in the past? Is that like a future Link? Is there more time travel involved? No, like I mean, in the first trailer there were two. I mean, no, I'm saying in the first trailer there were distinctly 2 Links in the trailer. One had longer hair and one had shorter hair, like with the one from the original Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, because the one was in like a toga.
Yeah, so some weird stuff going on. Would really appreciate knowing more about this game, but like honestly, I don't need to know more about this game. I know that the day it comes out is going to be a freaking holiday for me, and I will
be buying it. Yeah, I don't think it's going to do to me what Breath of the Wild did, which was like I don't know that I'm capable of it anymore.
But here's the thing, like it might not even be a you thing, right? Like this is an insanely tall order for Nintendo, right? Like Breath of the Wild, which is I don't want to say like universally loved, but like one of the most praised games of all time, right? that
it's like an 80-hour single-player game that I beat twice. That doesn't happen to me.
That totally revitalized Zelda, right? Like, how can they follow up on that and make it even better, right? Like, it's the same sort of... I don't know. It's like, how do you top a masterpiece? Like, I guess we're going to see how they try, right?
I'm very interested in some of the stuff they do, because there's been a lot of what I would call, like, toxic criticism as well, which is what I'm saying to refer to criticism from people that don't understand game design. Like, this is maybe a hot take, but I think if you did not like weapon durability in Breath of the Wild, you don't understand why it's there. And, you know, there's no good way to replace it. It was a very important part of that game. And I'm afraid, I don't know, Nintendo doesn't listen to their fans, so I guess I really shouldn't be worried.
Nintendo marches to the beat of their own drum, right? So, like, there's a part of me that thinks that, like, this game will be, like, even though it uses the same world as Breath of the Wild, because they're Nintendo, it might just be so different. Like, it'll be like almost like unrecognizable from the first game, right? Like, it'll share elements, but like it might do like a Majora's Mask to Ocarina of Time, I guess.
I'm curious how much they can fit, because Nintendo is not going to release a game that doesn't fit on a cartridge.
Also, like, I just want to comment on the scope of this game too, right? Like, they're reusing some assets from Breath of the Wild, so presumably it should have been a shorter dev time. This has been the longest period between mainline Zelda releases ever.
Wait, it's been longer than between Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild? Wasn't it like 7 years between Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild, though?
All right, let's do some research here. The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword came out in 2011. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild came out in 2017, right? So that's 6 years.
So we're at 5 years right now.
So it'll be 6 years.
6 years. It's the same.
I think I saw it was going to be the longest when the release date came out.
It might be the longest by months,
like a couple months or something. But
yeah, I don't know. That's
that being said, no, it is worth noting, right? Like, we all thought it would be a shorter dev time between Breath of the Wild and this game, and that was not the case, right? Like,
there was DLC development for Breath of the Wild.
Yeah,
but you got to imagine work on this started like right after Breath of the Wild came out.
I'm not certain that's true. Because they said in 2019 work has begun on the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. That was the trailer in 2019.
I mean, that's just when they revealed they were working on it. Like, I feel like
I doubt they'd been working on it for 2 years before they give us this game.
A little nugget.
Work has begun.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's no way of knowing. They're not going to tell us that. So
yeah, well, I mean, not right now at least. This is an aside. Have you all seen Sakurai's YouTube channel?
Oh, that's a great YouTube channel.
I haven't. I did see that he made one, which is interesting.
He's chomping on Game Maker's Toolkit's flavor. It's kind of sick.
That's cool.
Yeah. So
what a guy.
Nintendo telling us things made me think of that, because Sakurai's nuts. I love him.
He is. Yeah. God bless him. He's one of the treasures of the gaming industry. Okay.
Is it May 23rd, though, Tears of the Kingdom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty exciting. Hopefully it doesn't get delayed.
I don't think it'll get delayed now.
Hey, remember when you were like sure it would come out this year, Connor? And how I was sure it was coming out in 2023, and how I was right?
I do remember that. I wasn't going to bring it up. I do remember it.
Yeah.
I think Nintendo's probably got the strongest year of anybody coming up by one game alone.
The big, right, like the Elden Ring of the room here, right? Like, they're releasing the sequel to Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, almost a shoo-in for just winning all of the awards at the Game Awards, right? Like, I mean, already, right? We've barely seen anything of this game, and I can confidently say that Tears of the Kingdom is the game to beat. It's almost, like with Elden Ring, right? It was obviously Miyazaki, very renowned name, but it was largely an unknown quantity, right? Like, I was looking forward to Elden Ring, but I did not expect like that 97, 98 Metacritic, right? Like, that was just like, that went beyond my wildest expectations.
Yeah.
But with Tears of the Kingdom, those expectations are already there. So I'm curious to see how it manages to match or exceed those, because like, Elden Ring really didn't have anything to prove, right? It just came out and was magnificent, right?
This game has more potential to disappoint than maybe any
other
game I've played since that fateful day in 2007 when Spore came out.
Because I can't imagine, like, the pressure Nintendo must feel with this game. You're following up Breath of the Wild, which, set the world on fire.
Yeah.
And you're doing it in a post-Elden Ring world.
And on the very old, at this point, Switch hardware.
And you're almost guaranteed to be locked at 30 frames per second. But, to be fair, if Tears of the Kingdom ran at 10 frames a second, I'd still
I don't think it's guaranteed, because they could release a game that doesn't look any better than Breath of the Wild, and it would be fine. I
think that's what they're going to do, honestly.
Breath of the Wild wasn't 30. Like, Breath of the Wild was higher than 30 a lot of the time,
Breath of the Wild was 30.
Was it really?
I hate to break it to you, yes.
Okay. Dang. I haven't played it in a very long time.
Switch for me, I've talked about this on the show in the past, but 30 frames per second gaming is just unacceptable to me, right? On console and on PC, right? The only place I make an exception are handheld games, right? Because it doesn't bother me as much, because it literally starts to make me dizzy now when I play a 30 FPS game on a TV or a monitor, but not on the Switch for whatever reason, right? And I don't know if it's because I can maybe it's smaller, maybe I can hold it further away from my face.
Yeah,
so
it's probably, your TV's
really
probably pretty big, so yeah. It's probably how much of your field of view it takes up.
Yeah. So I will tolerate Zelda at 30 frames per second, but I will be playing it handheld, which is not how I want to play Zelda. But,
I'll be playing it on the big screen. I'll just be putting up with it. I don't know. I play most of my Steam Deck games at 40 frames per second, just because, for battery.
40 frames per second is a pretty...
it's a significant jump over 30, yeah.
And it's a cool revelation, especially in this console generation, right? Obviously, PCs have variable frame rates. They've been using 40 FPS for forever. But especially with this generation, pioneered by Insomniac, right? Sony has been putting out 40 FPS games, and it's been sweet, right? It's a great, middle ground between, really high fidelity resolution, if you're into that, and the halfway point to 60, which is 40 frames per second.
Yeah, it works. I like it. I don't think Tears of the Kingdom will bother me at 30 though. It's not a high action game. I don't know, but it does have we already know it's in an old Hyrule and everything. It does have the greatest potential to disappoint out of maybe any game ever.
It does, and you don't bet against Zelda, right?
No.
You don't, right? Maybe if you bet against them when Skyward Sword came out, you won, right? But that is the only time.
Yeah.
Their track record so far has been close to perfect, right? And even Skyward Sword is a pretty good game, right? I'm not gonna. It's just the worst one, but it's not a bad game. And especially taking the design philosophies of Breath of the Wild and improving upon those, we're being kind of negative right now, pessimistic right now, but on the flip side, what if they show everyone what an evolved Breath of the Wild style world could look like? And that will be the new benchmark going forward. I think that's equally as likely to happen, considering the caliber of developer we're considering here.
It has potential to be one of the greatest games of all time, for sure. It's not going to compete with Outer Wilds for me, but it could be, an easy top 5.
Yeah.
If it is only as good as Breath of the Wild, I think it'll make top 5.
Yeah. But that's the thing though, it can't be. Nintendo has to know it can't just be as good as Breath of the Wild. They're going to go for it.
They have to, yeah.
They're going to go for it.
I just have no idea what that even looks like.
Yeah, I don't.
It looks like Elden Ring, Nintendo, but but it's not going to look like Elden Ring. The question is,
do they go further beyond what Elden Ring did, which is an exciting prospect. All
right, guys. So, thanks for joining us on that walk down memory lane. I realized that we've never actually discussed the final trailer for Tears of the Kingdom. So I wanted to get you guys on and record one last clip to get our final thoughts, because this is kind of a big game for us. If I remember right, the first episode of our podcast was about Breath of the Wild, wasn't it?
Indeed, it was. The very first episode was about Breath of the Wild and physical versus digital games. Back when we spent 10 minutes on each topic.
Yeah.
For the days.
Well, we're going to spend a lot more than 10 minutes talking about Tears of the Kingdom. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because Tears of the Kingdom is going to be one of those rare games that not only all three of us are going to play, but all three of us are going to play like day one. So,
yeah, I've not been this hyped for a game in a long time. It's actually really funny. You guys haven't listened yet, but listening to our thoughts on it over the past, I think 2 years, I think the earliest clip was like mid 2021. It's really funny because, like, in the middle, we actually all got kind of lukewarm on it.
No,
so it's
you know
really
what's really funny? Like that seems to have been how the public perceived this game for the longest time. And I think it was the emergence of that last trailer that really kind of slapped people in the face and told them, like, what are you doing sleeping on Zelda? Like, this is Zelda we're talking about, you know?
Well, what's really funny is I say, almost word for word, I say both that this game, like, even if it's just more Breath of the Wild, that's going to be an incredible game. And then I later say, I don't think more Breath of the Wild's going to be enough anymore.
You know, human beings are complex animals full of contradiction. But there was this thought that, like, okay, it's going to be more Breath of the Wild, but which is going to be great, but, like, we need to be, like, can we be wowed again? And
the answer is yes. Trailer number 3 has come out, and it's like
a
masterclass.
Like, for me,
video game trailers.
Because, like, let's not kid ourselves. Like, Breath of the Wild also had like a 10 out of 10 like top 10 trailer of all time level trailer. Like, so the team over there just knows how to cut a really good trailer. And I guess the danger here is, like, in Breath of the Wild's trailer, which was kind of similar to this one, right? It was action-packed. It had lots of seemingly story-relevant moments, but the actual game was kind of like, you know, the story parts were very sparse, which I'm totally fine with, right? Like, I love Breath of the Wild.
I really don't think that's going to be how it is this time.
I don't think it is either, but I'm just, like, pointing out from that perspective, if you have some trepidation.
I'm prepared for it, yeah.
But, like,
I'm prepared to have a good time with it.
I really, like, the vibes I get from this trailer is that, like, and obviously this is a lot of, like, hype, you know, talking, but, like, this seems to be the ultimate synthesis of all the things Zelda. Like, all the things that, you know, the fans of Breath of the Wild love, the things that the old Zelda diehards love, all come together with this one game.
I just want good dungeons.
I think you're going to get them. I mean, because I watched some of the older trailers, too, and it really looks like there are, like, vast underground dungeon areas in this game. And I really hope that there's kind of a mix between, like, Hyrule Castle style dungeons and, like, some more old school puzzle focused dungeons.
I mean, Breath of the Wild's Hyrule Castle, I think, is the shining moment of Breath of the Wild for me. That's the only part where I'm legitimately like, this is actually pretty cool.
I think
it's insanely good.
Yeah, and I'll talk about that in a different episode here, because I have actually been playing Breath of the Wild, and specifically that section. But I do think that, like, that style, like, Hyrule Castle is what dungeons are going to be in this new form of Zelda. So, hopefully, yes, we do get more of that.
As long as they don't give me more Divine Beasts, because those things...
I mean, I don't think they will, right? Like, that's a relic of Breath of the Wild. I think... What I truly think is that with all the stuff we've seen in this trailer, we've only been shown the tip of the iceberg still. Like, I think this game is going to have massive amounts of, like, mysteries to unravel. And by the way, they're having a treehouse literally the day before the game comes out. Like, who's going to watch that? Like, not me. Like, if I've come this close, I need to just go in and play it.
Well, if I was gonna watch that, like, I could have played.
Maybe someone who isn't sold on it yet, I guess. But, like, I do question the decision of having the treehouse just, like, mere hours before the release.
I don't know how much I trust his opinion, but I believe it was Chris. It was one of the guys at Polygon. I think it was Chris Plant was saying, like, producers and editors, get ready, because when Tears of the Kingdom comes, it's going to be Minecraft, Fortnite, like, Breath of the Wild big. Like, it's going to be, it's going to set the world. Oh, he said Animal Crossing big as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to set the world on fire. And this is somebody that I'm pretty sure has early access.
Yeah, I do want to avoid all that, because, like, I know it's going to be great. I just want to play it myself. But, like, this sort of, like, these early peaks are sort of reminding me, Like in the days leading up to Elden Ring's release, like you had people who had the game early for review purposes, like chatting amongst themselves, saying like, "Are we playing one of the greatest games ever made?" You know, and I feel like the same thing is happening here with Tears of the Kingdom.
I'm just obscenely excited. It's going to be a very good game. A Friday cannot come soon enough. This is for what it's worth. This is Tuesday now, May 9th, and the game comes out this Friday. So we're all on pins and needles.
Yeah. So just to confirm, you are getting it, right, Mike?
Yeah, it's already been.
You pre-ordered
it's already
it, right?
pulled out of my bank account.
Yeah, so it's happening. All right, it's happening.
I can't back out anymore.
Yeah, you can't back.
I almost did.
I do think, like just being realistic about it, you will probably be like the most lukewarm out of the three of us, but that's fine. We need all perspectives.
I'm just insane. Like, I don't know. I actually watched I'm gonna plug it real quick. There's Daryl Talks Games did he does like videos about the psychology of video games, and he did an episode about hype and how sometimes hype can be like one of the most enjoyable parts of the experience.
Oh yeah, that happens a lot.
I don't get hyped for games that often, so I'm really riding this wave right now.
Yeah, man, unlike you, I do get hyped for games a lot, but like each time it feels different. It's not just like, oh, big game coming out, I'm excited. Like I'm genuinely excited each time like one of these games comes out. But I think the last time I was this excited for a game was God of War Ragnarok, personally. Which, all things being considered, was a few months ago, which is kind of shocking.
Yeah, that wasn't that long ago. Yeah. But I don't know, this latest trailer, like,
yeah,
it just had everything. Like it opens with Link just falling out of the sky, and then just beautiful sweeping landscapes of Hyrule. We get to see sexy Ganondorf. We get to see like some other species. We're not really sure. Could it be the Zonai? Could it be? We don't know yet.
Isn't that what the race was called in Outer Wilds as well? Zonai? Or am I confusing two things? Nomai. Okay.
Yeah. I want, there was a little more of like the Twilight sound effect stuff. I'm really still banking on the Twilight being in this game. I really want that, but I won't be crushed if I'm wrong, but
yeah, I just,
I don't know. I still, there are a lot of people think there's going to be time travel and Twilight in this game. Like that's a common theory now. And I just want to say I was there first.
I had always thought, like, I thought time travel from the very first trailer when we saw long-haired Link versus like the Link we see in Breath of the Wild, that still really doesn't have an explanation. Like maybe there's a massive time skip or something. I don't know. Or
I jumped on Twilight being in the game very early. It was they had like that lingering shot of the castle at Twilight, and that made me think it. But now, like, I think Zeltic has even said that he thinks the Twilight are going to be in it, and he's always right.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. And it bears mentioning, this game is basically completely leaked. Like, there are details. Like, you could find everything there is about this game.
I mean, I could be playing
it
right now.
Yeah, so
I could be playing it on my PC.
I'm taking it in good faith that neither of you have heard anything. I have not heard anything. Nope. So
nothing.
Going into this as blind as possible. This way more fun.
I really just want to be a part of that day one hype.
Yeah, it is something. It is something special.
Mm-hmm. And I'm on vacation all next week, so I have I'll be soaking up the sun and playing some Zelda in the evenings and just really.
Oh, let's be real. You're not only going to be playing it in the evenings.
I'm going to be playing it. I'm going to be playing it in the morning. Right. I'm going to be playing it. Yeah, I actually, there's no guarantee I go to the beach all that much during my beach trip.
Yeah, totally understandable.
We'll see.
But yeah, we're a few days away.
A week off is a precious thing.
It is.
So yeah, I think unless you guys have more to add, I think we can probably wrap this up if you want to do our outro, Ahmed.
I think we're good. The next time we convene will be for... Well, actually, that's not true. We're recording one other episode before Tears of the Kingdom, and then we'll talk about Tears of the Kingdom. So the game will have been out for a couple weeks before you hear our thoughts on it. Okay, but all that being said, thank you all for listening. You can follow us at Podcast Game Talk on Twitter. Please like, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, etc. click the link in our description to join our Discord and talk to us there. Thank you, Connor and Mike.
Yeah, see you guys next time.
See you next time.